My name is Ivan Odit Onapito. I've been working with the Makerere Palliative Care Unit since 2011 when I joined as the volunteer coordinator. And basically my role was to set up a volunteer team, volunteer program to help the patients, to provide practical support and spiritual support. We started with a small team of 6 volunteers, but over the years it has grown, and by the last count we had about 25 volunteers who had gone through our program. My role has also grown because now I'm in charge of pastoral and social care support for our patients and families. So when I look at spirituality and religion, of course these are two distinct things. I would say religion is a subset of spirituality, because spirituality is much bigger than religion. Religion is really our beliefs in a particular God, a particular faith, certain practices, and probably a faith community that we belong to. But spirituality for me, I think, is really, it transcends religion because everybody is spiritual. Everybody has a sense of spirituality, the search for meaning, a relationship with something or a higher being that could be God, but could also not be God. So that distinction needs to be made, that even if somebody is not religious, they're actually spiritual beings, they're actually spiritual, and in a way we need to acknowledge that. During my master's degree course, I got the opportunity to interact a lot with different theologians, and just to hear their views on care for the sick. And it was surprising to hear how it has been boxed to quoting scripture, a prayer, offering encouragement and telling them they're going to be okay. But it's actually much bigger than that. It's actually, they can do much, much more because they have the advantage of being trusted. How do we help our healthcare workers really understand spirituality and actually its importance? One, I think, first of all, addressing the misconception that spiritual care and spirituality is really about prayer. In our setting, when somebody feels that a patient is spiritually distressed, they'll say, call the priest to come and pray with them, or probably they need to be prayed with, and that is what we equate to spiritual care. But really just having these conversations with them to make them understand that actually it's much more than that. Patients have deep-seated issues that can only be brought out if they feel they're being listened to, if they feel they're being heard, they're being understood. And I think it would be pertinent for healthcare to understand that. But also too, for healthcare to understand that they too can actually provide spiritual care. Spiritual care is not limited only to faith leaders or church leaders or the imam or the sheikhs or the theologians. But using the tool which I used for my research on narratives, we actually found that you can give good spiritual care across all faiths, across all religions, to people who are suffering with life-limiting illnesses. And basically really exploring how we can use stories to elicit the patient's stories and find ways of using their stories, of channeling their stories to actually give them good spiritual care. And some of the things that came out from listening and probing and finding out what gives your life meaning. What are some of the things you're most proud of, What are some of the things you probably regret or you could have done better? And giving them a chance to express themselves in these ways. Many of them reported that actually this was really good for them. They felt cared for. They felt that their life was worth living. Even with the illness, they felt that their life had meaning. they felt it was worth it. They felt that actually I'm still valued, that somebody would take their time to come and sit with me and just listen to me, not telling me what to do, not telling me what to hope for, but just listen to me. It shows that even in my life-limiting illness, I'm still valued. One of the experiences when I shared about my experience doing the practical theology master's degree was to meet some of the reverends from the Anglican Church in Kampala who have a health network. And I didn't know about it, but they came for the conference and they heard my experience and they were really interested. How can we partner together? And those are conversations we're having. But even just the ability to go through the whole process of doing my research for the master's and even presenting it. I presented it, it was an oral presentation at the African Palliative Care Conference last year. And I must say it was well received. I got to interact with people who have been in the field for quite a while, especially people involved in spiritual care. And just to have these connections and find ways of collaborating, but also for people who have been in this field to appreciate what you're doing and, and be very interested in what you're doing. For me, it was a big motivation and encouragement. To the people who are really interested in the work and people who are supporting, I must say the work is really fruitful and the work is very fulfilling. Just helping patients and families. These are vulnerable people, but God has placed us in a position to stand with them, to hold their hands, to cry with them, to laugh with them, to help them live even with their life-limiting illnesses, to give them a good quality of life. And so that's what we do here. And we thank you for the interest that you have and for supporting this work that we do.